Yo, what is going on, everybody? And welcome back to Team 9 in XFL podcast. After all the talk surrounding if the 4 and 6 Arlington Renegades should even be in the playoffs, they go into Houston and knock off the Roughnecks to become the XFL South Division champions. The DC Defenders ride their home field advantage and handle the Seattle Sea Dragons for the third straight time this season, becoming your XFL North Division champions. With everything on the line, who will come out on top in San Antonio? We'll get into what the championship game between the Renegades and Defenders will look like next week. Of course, my name is Ethan, and I am joined by John and Felix. Felix, how you feeling right now, man?
Yeah, I'm feeling great. It's good to be back. We took a little break. There's a lot of stuff going on IRL, but I'm back and I'm ready to get moving. Let's keep this going.
John, how about you, my man?
Yeah, not much else to say after that. Just let's get back into it.
We're
Yes,
glad
sir.
to be back. Let's get back right into it. Before we start, I do want to mention that it is The Rock's birthday. So happy birthday to XFL chairman, owner, not commissioner, but XFL God, The Rock.
Oh yeah.
Happy
Hit him with
birthday,
that one.
Rock. We
Hit him
love you,
with that.
buddy.
Thank you, The Rock, for all this, for the opportunity for us to get this league this year. This has been really fun so far. All right, so let's look at our the games this past weekend. I think it's about time.
It is.
So, looking at this, man, the Arlington Renegades coming in at 4 and 6. I mean, a lot of people said they shouldn't even be here in the playoffs. Visit the 7-3 Houston Roughnecks. The Roughnecks, I mean, their only losses have come to North Division opponents this entire year. And for the Renegades, they lost both of their regular season meetings versus Houston by a 12.5 point margin in those games. John, how did you feel going into this one, man?
Well, much like everybody else, I thought Houston, they were at home, so that's a big advantage there. And I thought they would kind of steamroll Arlington with a good defense. And, I mean, a decent offense that's been inconsistent, but it was starting to get its legs back. So I really thought Houston would have taken this, was going to take this going in.
And that was basically the consensus all around. Again, the Houston Roughnecks favored by 7.5 in this game going in at home against the Renegades. But we'll get into the recap now. On the opening drive of the game, on 3rd and 3, Luis Perez stays alive in the pocket and gets the ball out to Javante Payton for the 14-yard opening drive touchdown. An impressive drive. Devion Smith had a nice 24-yard run, scampering up the left sideline. So a great, impressive opening drive by the Renegades, a team that really has been squandered by their offense all year. Kind of going late into the first quarter, both teams kind of stiffen up on defense. Houston plays the Renegades' run game, ascending in their linebackers to stuff the run. And Arlington's DBs do a great job at coming up to play the Roughnecks short passing game. But nearly just as the second quarter begins, Perez takes a deep shot, something Arlington's been missing all season long, and hits Javante Payton in stride for a 58-yard touchdown. Incredible, shocking, whatever you want to call it. The Renegades have come into Houston swinging. And let's just talk about Javante Payton really quick, John, because this guy, he played in 9 games this year, had 17 targets the entire year, 11 catches, and 164 yards, and he had 2 touchdowns in the first quarter. I mean, what happened? Like, did he just come out of nowhere? Like, what was the deal?
Yeah, he kind of did. I mean, he's kind of been there. I mean, I know everybody on the broadcast. I mean, they're talking about Tyler Vaughn's and his presence is really felt because everybody has to cover him, but he doesn't really do much of the, I guess, production that they get. And Javante Payton has really been that guy for them for, I think, most of the season, but especially these last few games of the season. And yeah, I just think he got free, and I think this was just a great game called by the offensive coordinator, whoever was calling the game. They actually have co-offensive coordinators, Jonathan Hayes and Chuck Long. I really thought they did a great job calling the game. I don't really know who was calling the game.
And I got to mention, great play design by Bob Stoops and that Arlington coaching staff, those two co-offensive coordinators, on the ensuing 2 point conversion. A fake handoff.
Yeah.
And then he gets it off to the ensuing end around, goes to Javante Payton, and the Renegades go up 14-0 early in the second quarter. When in doubt, though, the Roughnecks turned to Cole McDonald. His scrambling ability opened up the running lanes for Houston as the Roughnecks scored on the first drive as Jeremy Cox punches it in on a one yard run. Deontay Burnett hauls in a throw from McDonald for the 2-point conversion. John, how does Cole McDonald open up this offense?
Well, like when he came in at the start, he was really the like mobile quarterback that they've had throughout the season,
Right.
and we've seen that when he came in at the start, but then they kind of didn't use that mobility as much as they have needed to the past, just whenever he's been in since that first game when he came in, actually.
Yeah, so for me, I would definitely say that McDonald does a great job at opening up running lanes for the running backs. They actually call it a read option with Max Borghi that got free. And he also just gets, when the passing game, he draws man coverage because they got to have somebody on him. So it draws man coverage, leaves one-on-one with his wide receivers. But Luis Perez and the Renegades, yeah, they came to play on what was probably the most impressive drive of the game. Perez lost a 14-yard touchdown pass to Brandon Arconado to give Arlington the 20-8 lead following the failed 2-point conversion. But this was a great drive by Perez, man. Their running back, Brian Harrion, he's a smaller guy, but he scampered out for a little 18-yard run up the left sideline. Perez ended up hitting Vaughns and Luan Winningham also on some slant routes. Like it just felt like he was throwing the ball all over the yard. On the next drive for the Roughnecks, they stall out, giving the Renegades the ball back as Perez continues to wheel and deal. Arlington cashed in 3 before half thanks to Taylor Russolino's kick from 31 yards out. Arlington had a great drive here. Perez hit. It was our boy Javante Payton on the sideline. He got out of bounds. And then he hit Leighton Vander Esch's brother, or cousin, Caleb Vander Esch, Leighton Vander Esch, the linebacker for the Cowboys. His cousin, a wide receiver for the Arlington Renegades. But it felt like Bob Stoops kind of had a mismanaged clock before half. It felt like he really let the clock tick down. I understand not wanting to give Houston the ball back, but with what your defense was doing and being the underdog, it felt like they had a chance to get more points there. Nonetheless, the Renegades led the Roughnecks 23-8 at the end of the first half. And midway through the third quarter, Houston tries a little trickeration. For the first and only time all season long, both quarterbacks trot onto the field for the Roughnecks. Brandon Silvers hands the ball off to Cole McDonald, who fakes the reverse, looks downfield, pretends to throw it, then runs for a gain of 13 into the Renegade red zone. McDonald tries to escape and runs right into a sack on a critical 3rd and 2 inside the Arlington 10-yard line later that drive, and they had to settle for 3. These were the last points that the Roughnecks would ever score. Houston opts to stick with Cole McDonald in the second half with just over 5 minutes to go into the game. He throws a ball up into double coverage to Devontae Bosby. John, would you rather have Brandon Silvers in this situation or Cole McDonald?
That's a tough decision because both of them have showed excellence in at least one play throughout the. I mean, Cole McDonald hasn't been that great throughout the season, but he has showed sparks here and there. But I would say, because he's only had sparks, I would say Brandon Silvers is definitely the guy you got to go to, because he's the deep ball passer that's basically what his role is on the team, and not the mobile guy. So you got to just put him in there and let him throw it up. It was a poor throw by McDonald there.
Yeah, I really don't know what Wade Phillips was doing in the second half. I mean, Houston, they needed to come back down 23-8, and they scored 3 points in the second half with Cole McDonald being in there the entire game, except for that one play that I mentioned. The only reason I mentioned that play was because it was such a wild design. But, I mean, I feel like you have to have Silvers in there. He's done so much for your team. Early in the year, he was so good at sticking in the pocket, dialing up pressure, and just making the throws over the middle, taking hits. I know that kind of slowed down midway through the year, but you got to show confidence in your guy, I think. But to end this game, Luan Winningham makes an incredible catch, makes it look easy, though. Nonchalantly forks the ball with his right hand as he heads toward the sideline. I mean, that was an incredible catch, John. That set up the field goal that finished this game. Arlington wins 26-11. I mean, I feel like you got to get Luan Winningham the ball more in this next championship game. It just feels like he's always been that flashy guy. They just don't get the ball to enough.
Yeah, they're definitely going to have to just spread the ball around more in general, as you can't rely on one guy against a defense like DC's. I mean, I would have said that actually going into this one, but I guess they had some kind of plays dialed up that would confuse the defense. I don't know. I think DC, their defense is going to hold strong. And, yeah, I don't think they're going to let Javonte just take over the game like he did today. And they really do have to spread it out to Whittingham and Tyler Vaughns and others like that.
So looking at the box score, Luis Perez finishes 19 for 27, 289 yards passing and 3 touchdowns, no picks. That is an amazing game for Luis Perez. Devion Smith, 24 carries, 94 yards. Brian Harrion, 3 carries, 25 yards. Receiving, Javonte Payton, 5 catches, 121 yards, 2 touchdowns on 5 targets. Caleb Van Der Esch, 5 catches, 60 yards on 7 targets. Lawan Winningham, again, 2 catches, 49 yards on 4 targets. That is just crazy to me. Tyler Vaughns, 3 catches, 29 yards on 5 targets. Another guy who I think they need to get involved more, Sal Cannella, 2 catches, 18 yards on 2 targets. And then Brandon Arconato, 1 catch, 14 yards, but he had the touchdown on that 1 target. And if we want to look at the Houston side, Cole McDonald finished 9 for 25. Yikes. 82 yards and an interception. Brandon Silvers, 3 for 6. He got taken out early in the second quarter for 22 yards. Max Borghi, 7 carries, 48 yards. Cole McDonald, 7 carries, 47 yards. Bryson Allen, 4 carries, 20 yards. Jeremy Cox, 6 carries, 11 yards, and the touchdown. If we want to look at receiving, Deontay Burnett, 4 catches, 57 yards on 6 targets. Bryson Allen, they're more receiving back, 3 catches, 18 yards on 4 targets. And then Taven Salter, 1 catch, 11 yards on 6 targets. So just not a great day for the Roughnecks offense. But, John, I do want to get into this because, again, the talk was that the Renegades, they shouldn't even be here, right? I mean, 4-6. How do you feel about it?
Well, it actually kind of is good. I mean, they kind of proved all the haters wrong. And I get the idea of wanting the 4 best teams in the playoffs rather than just the 2 in the division. But, I mean, that's kind of just how it works in leagues in general. I mean, you're going to have a team that maybe on paper might not deserve to be there, but they're bound to put up a fight. I mean, you see that in all playoffs every year almost. And it's kind of cool to see these underdogs take one. And yeah, it'll be exciting to watch them because I don't think anybody will be counting them out as much, but they will still be counted as underdogs.
Yeah, and, I wanted to chip in real quick, actually. I was gonna say, like, obviously it does stink for the Battlehawks having such a great season and still not making playoffs. But like John was saying, you know, sometimes you gotta cut your losses, and with a league like this, having 3 teams from one division and then 1 from the other, it would just feel unfair almost. So
exactly.
I understand from like sort of a business perspective and a managing perspective of like, you know, you got to kind of be inclusive in that sense too. 2 teams from each, but in terms of the upset, I think it's awesome. You know, some people may argue that the Renegades don't deserve this, but I don't think the Roughnecks came out there and played as well as they could have or as well as they should have, and I think the Renegades wanted it more, and that showed on the field.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a disappointing season for the Houston Roughnecks just to go 7-3 and get knocked out like that by a team that you owned in the regular season.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, looking at the Arlington side, I mean, yeah, if you were to have the if you were to have the Battlehawks in the playoffs, I guess you were to do that the best 4-team format, you probably wouldn't even have divisions. Maybe you do that just for scheduling purposes. Just say, hey, if you're
exactly
this is how we schedule you basically. So you would, you know, Houston plays Arlington twice, blah blah blah, South and North teams.
Yeah.
So listen, as much as I would love the Battlehawks fans the Battlehawks in the playoffs, Battlehawks fans, I don't care, man. I'm here for the chaos, baby. I mean, think about this: the XFL brands itself as the league of opportunity, the league of second chances, and the team that went 4-6 and had no offense all year, had a great defense, but no offense all year, trades for Luis Perez. He gets a second chance after kind of having a weird first half of the season with the Vipers. And they come out and they get a second chance and they get an opportunity to prove themselves. And they go out there and they get the win on the road. That is huge. That is exactly what this league is about. The XFL is all about opportunity, about second chances, and I am here for the chaos.
100%. I agree.
All right. Well, that's that discussion over with. We will get into the nation's capital here. and talk about the Seattle Sea Dragons coming into town to play the DC Defenders for the XFL North Division Championship. DC swept Seattle in the regular season, going 2-0. But this game was not that much different. Seattle comes out throwing early and often. Ben DiNucci chucks it up into double coverage, and Ja'Cour Pearson snags it on 3rd and 9 on the opening drive, which was crazy. Uh, and DiNucci got hit on that play I mentioned too, which
Yeah.
is just why he just chucked it up. Looked like it was going to be like another classic DiNucci interception, but Ja'Cour comes down and brings it in. The Seattle Sea Dragons capped their opening drive with a 33-yard field goal by Dominic Everly. And then on their first drive, the defenders get three themselves. A busted coverage leaves a wide open Briley Moore for 57 yards to set up a 1st and goal DC. Seattle snuffs out the defenders, and Matt McCrane is forced to knock it in from 24 yards out. Early on in this game, drafts were the story for the Sea Dragons. We came into Sunday expecting rain, and while raindrops ceased falling before kickoff, the wet conditions seemed to affect Seattle's pass catchers early. It didn't help that Seattle ran the ball 5 times all game long, which is just crazy to me. John, what kind of team goes into a game expecting bad conditions and only calls 5 running plays? And I remember like one or two of them being at the end of the half when they were just trying to run the clock out.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's been Seattle's problem all season. They don't like to run the ball, and it's even weirder this late in the season because we saw they added Philip Lindsay, a running back from the NFL, 2 times 1,000-yard rushing seasons for that guy. I mean, you'd think they would want to get him involved and stuff, right? But I don't know. It's weird. I think that's what is separating Seattle from a team like DC is that run game because DC has the leading rusher in Abram Smith, and they have a good pass game with that. I just don't. Seattle is not a complete team in the sense that they don't use that run game enough.
And it's weird because I think they have the personnel, like you said, they have
Exactly.
Philip Lindsay. Like they have the guys to do this. June Jones definitely went very pass happy in this game. And I mean, the classic football cliche, the run sets up the pass and the pass sets up the run, man. So, I
Yeah.
mean, and it seems like DC was playing back most of this game. So, I mean, there would have been running lanes if they were to call runs, but they were going 5 wide almost every play with DiNucci. It was
Exactly.
crazy.
I mean, I don't
Um,
mind the heavy pass offense, but how many times you say they run? 5 times?
5 times the entire game.
Yeah, that's not enough. I mean,
That
you
is
talk about
definitely not enough.
keeping a defense on their toes. I mean, the defense just has to not do pretty much anything. I mean, they know you're going to pass the ball. So, like, you got to have a mix up there, or else the defense just going to sniff it out, which they did in this game.
You want to, so you'll hear the rushing numbers here. I'll just lay it out for you here. Ben DiNucci had 3 runs for 16 yards, and those could have been on passing plays. Those are
They
escaping me at
probably
the
were.
moment. Probably, honestly. And Philip Lindsay had 2 carries for -3 yards. They called this game like they were playing Madden in the
Yeah.
rain, which was crazy to me. Just unbelievable. I guess just game plan coming in, but interesting nonetheless. But the defenders get the ball back. Jordan Hamu hits Lucky Jackson in stride as he rumbles up the sideline and in for the 44-yard touchdown. DC grabs the 9-3 lead after failing the 2-point conversion. The Seattle Sea Dragons strike back with a touchdown drive of their own. DiNucci makes a great play out of the pocket on a 3rd and 6 to move the chains. A diving catch by Blake Jackson nonetheless. And on a later 3rd and 1, DiNucci goes into double coverage again. And again, Ja'Cour Pearson comes down with it, this time for a 15-yard touchdown to tie the game up. The defenders have 2 chances to grab the lead before half, but squander both. Both chances ending in Jordan Time, who tipped interceptions. But this one before half, oh baby, was it sweet. With just over 50 seconds left in the half, Tomu's pass was tipped by Tyrell Adams and then is juggled and brought down by Antoine Brooks. I mean, what a play by Brooks, man. A Ja'Cour Pearson-esque catch. Hell, he might have learned something from Ja'Cour to keep this game tied at 9 going to half. I mean, DC had a chance to grab the lead before half here, John. I mean, that was an incredible play.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I think DC, they kind of, like you said, squandered some opportunities there before half. But, I mean, what Seattle probably did somewhat of the same thing. I'm just guessing. I mean, I looked at the stats before this. I mean, DC punted once the whole game. I don't know. I don't mind like the aggressive before half, but that interception really killed it. I don't know.
Yeah, both interceptions they were in Seattle territory, so that was a those were two
Exactly.
mistakes there. Um, it ended up not mattering because Seattle ended up squandering their opportunities here in the third quarter, which we'll get to in a minute. But yeah, big plays by Seattle just to keep this game close. But like I said, the third quarter is where things got turned on its head. On their opening drive of the second half, the XFL drafts first overall pick and leading rusher Abram Smith. I'm sure some of you were waiting for us to say his name. Punches it in from a yard out. DC takes the 15-9 lead after the failed 2-point try. And this is where momentum begins to shift. As for Seattle, penalties begin to pile up. The Sea Dragons are stopped and pushed back due to drops and penalties, giving the defenders great field position. DC capitalizes with some darts thrown by Jordan Tamu, one going to Ethan Wolf as he hits the sideline for the 26-yard catch and run touchdown. The crowd is back in the game. Next Seattle drive, the pressure gets to DiNucci as Jamal Brooks comes in on the safety blitz and Joe Wallace brings down DiNucci on a huge 3rd and 2 past midfield. The next defender's drive may be the most dysfunctional touchdown drive you will ever see. Following multiple penalties and growing frustration by the Seattle Sea Dragons defense, both Jordan Tamu and Abram Smith going down with injuries, DC finishes the drive off with a De'Ara King handoff to Cameron Harris from a yard out. The defenders take a 30-9 lead. Speaking of Cameron Harris, this man did not have a single registered carry, catch, target on the season. And he had a crazy fourth quarter here. We'll get into in a minute.
Yeah, he
But I
showed
mean,
up.
John, for the Sea Dragons, I mean, 12 penalties on the day, you can't have that.
No, you can't. And I know we've talked about some of the worst teams in the league. At least one of them, Orlando, and even Arlington before they got into this playoff stretch. I mean, that's what has killed the games for these teams. I mean, you can't have 12 penalties in a game. That's just unacceptable.
Yeah, I mean, I think we said it before, or going into this year, especially early in the season, and
Yeah,
we're seeing that in the USFL as well. It's a league of mistakes, like it's more about the mistakes that are made than the plays that are
exactly.
made, I think. And that's usually like an early season thing. We've kind of gotten past that now, but I guess not really. It all comes back to bite them in the end. There's actually 13 penalties in this game for Seattle. Yikes. They won the turnover battle 2-0, and they still ended up losing this game by a lot, which we'll get into in
I
a
know.
minute here. Seattle strikes back with a touchdown of their own, a 34-yard pump and go to the struggling Jawan Green, keeping the Sea Dragons alive. Jawan Green, he had a ton of drops this game early, which really killed momentum for Seattle.
How many times was he
But
targeted? 15 times, I think. Jeez.
it was we'll get into the stats here in a minute, but
Okay.
16 times he caught
Yeah.
8 balls. That's
I don't know.
crazy.
You got to
That's
spread the ball around
50%.
more than that.
Probably. But Seattle's dream at a comeback is short-lived as the defenders put together an impressive put-away drive, capped off by an 11-yard run ball by Cameron Harris for the touchdown. Again, this Cameron Harris coming out of nowhere, scoring 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter to put his team on top. But I do want to mention that Abram Smith put in the 1-point conversion in the paint for DC. Again, it looked like Tamu and Abram Smith went down with injuries, and I think DC knew they kind of had this game in hand, and they knew they could just keep pounding the rock. They trusted De'Ara King. They trusted what they had in Cameron Harris, and both those guys studded out, finished this game off for them. I think both, I wouldn't worry too much about Tamu or Abram Smith being injured. I think they were just being very cautious with them.
Especially with 2 weeks of rest, they'll be fine.
I think they're going to be just fine. And Jawan Green got a late touchdown in this game that didn't really matter. The DC Defenders are your XFL North Division champions, beating Seattle 37-21. Let's look at the box score here. Ben DiNucci, 31 for 48, 295 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. Pretty good game overall from him, honestly. I mean, he was forced to throw the ball 48 times, and he had a ton of drops from his receivers, which we'll get into in a minute. We already talked about the rushing. For Seattle receiving, here we are. Juwan Green, 8 catches, 89 yards on 16 targets. He had 2 touchdowns, but again, one of them was very late. Both of them were very late in the game when this game was basically wrapped up. Jordan Vesey, 6 catches, 61 yards on 6 targets. Ja'Cory Pearson, 6 catches, 56 yards and a tutty on 6 targets. Blake Jackson, 5 catches, 49 yards on 6 targets. Josh Gordon, 4 catches, 23 yards on 11 targets. Wow. Calvin McKnight, 2 catches, 17 yards on 2 targets. And then looking at the DC side of things, Jordan Tamu, 19 for 31, 258 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Not the greatest numbers, but you got the win. Tierra King, 4 for 5, 41 yards in that fourth quarter. Abram Smith, 23 carries, 48 yards, and the touchdown. Cameron Harris coming out of nowhere, 5 catches, 25 yards, and 2 touchdowns. DC receiving, Briley Morge leading receiver, 4 catches, 80 yards on 4 targets. Lucky Jackson, 2 catches, 56 yards, and a touchdown on 5 targets. Josh Hammond, 6 catches, 55 yards on 8 targets. Chris Blair getting involved, 5 catches, 51 yards on 7 targets. And Ethan Wolf, 1 catch, 26 yards, and a touchdown on 2 targets. He got involved with that touchdown. John, again, for Seattle, what do you think they had to do differently in this game?
Well, just spread the ball around more. I mean, the clear difference between both of these teams is the fact that one or two guys on Seattle got targeted over 10 times, but they didn't have insane numbers like you would expect them to be, right? And I mean,
Right.
Juwan Green, it makes sense why they've targeted him so many times. I mean, he's been their guy pretty much the last half of the season here.
He's really been like the DC defender's killer.
He really started coming out towards the last half of the season, and yeah, I could see this guy going, but off of 16 targets, not even many of those catches. I mean, that's tough numbers there. Again,
Yeah.
DC, I think they have some scheme going on. I keep seeing them do these crossing routes and they get big yards off of those. And I really think that's going to be a focus, or that has been a focus of theirs, and it will continue to be going into the championship game.
We'll be interested to see how Arlington's linebackers combat those. Yeah, for Juwan Green, just a tough game. A lot of drops early, which I think really just hurt his numbers and then hurt his confidence as well going through. All right, now with both tickets punched to San Antonio, we will go to our Around the XFL segment. And first, I want to talk about these championship trophies, the division championship trophies we'll look at first. Felix, what do you think about these division championship trophies, man?
They're it's definitely a simple design, and I do like how they are directly, correlated with each other with the inverse bases. The white for the north and the black for the south. And it's definitely simple and sleek. I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. I think it's kind of cool. One thing that I would like is maybe a little more variation between the two because it did take me a second to kind of process the difference. So I guess that
Right.
would be my one kind of critique. But other than that, I like how they went with the simple design, and I like how they relate to each other directly. So definitely a modern look, and I don't mind it at all. Yeah, it's pretty nice.
Hey, sometimes sleek and simple is the way to go. Yeah, I definitely like it. Like the NFC and AFC championship trophies, you
Yeah,
can't even tell the difference between those two. You have to
exactly.
literally read the trophy to figure it out. So I
Yeah,
already like the black and the white bases. That already changes it.
yeah,
John, what do you think
yeah. I
about these,
like
man?
that. I do. I mean, I'm glad there is some variation there at least.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, the
John,
minimalistic look, it's cool, it's fine. I mean, yeah, I like them. I don't really have much else to say. Following the NFL's type of trophies with the NFC and AFC, like you said, I mean, I like it. Doing some more differentiation, if that's a word, with the black and white bases. Yeah, I think they're cool.
It's
and I guess we got to address the elephant in the room. John, you were the first to mention the release of the XFL championship trophy. I mean, this thing looks insane, man.
Yeah, I just think they tried to do a little too much here. Like the Lombardi Trophy type of thing with the football at the top and everything, right? But
Right.
I don't know. Something about
you know,
it is kind of weird to me, but I don't think it's bad. It's just I think something's either missing or something didn't need to be there. Cuz it just seems like
Hmm.
the
yeah.
division trophies but with an X and the football's on top of that.
Right.
Yeah, I don't mind it, but I do agree. Like, I think it would almost be better if it was just the X.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know.
That's what I was about to say. That's read my mind.
Yeah, like the football doesn't look bad, but I feel like it might be a little awkward looking. So just the X would be kind of sleek, I think. something to
Right.
consider going forward, I guess. But it's not horrible.
Not bad at all. Let's get into some more hardware being handed out. How about the XFL Coach of the Year award? Reggie Barlow of the DC Defenders is your XFL Coach of the Year. A little background on Reggie Barlow. He did play wide receiver in the NFL. He played for the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Fun fact, he actually led the NFL in punt return yards in 1998 when he was with the Jaguars. 555 yards on 43 returns. He also had a touchdown that year, 85-yard touchdown return, which is crazy. But he's also he served as the head coach at Alabama State University from 2007 to 2014, and at Virginia State University from 2016 to 2021. I mean, John, for Reggie Barlow, I mean, this was a no-brainer, right? He had to be the guy.
Oh yeah, he's obviously the coach of the year. I mean, you have a 9-1 record in the regular season, never lost a game at home. I mean, just a great coach all around, and you can see that by the record, and you can see it's obvious that the players have gotten behind his scheme and everything. And yeah, it's great that he got it. Nobody else deserved it more than him.
Great team, great coach, great chance at holding up that hardware next week.
Oh yeah.
We will talk about some of the other awards. The XFL does have these annual awards. The Coach of the Year was just announced today on May 2nd. We were recording this on May 2nd, The Rock's birthday. Um, Let me go through this article here on XFL.com called XFL Announces Inaugural Season Awards. We'll talk about the other ones and their release dates here. Special Teams Player of the Year to be awarded to a player on the special teams squad, including players who made an impact on point after touchdown conversions with the most exceptional performance this season. That'll be announced May 3rd, which will be tomorrow. Defensive Player of the Year to be awarded to the defensive player deemed to have had the most exceptional performance this season, to be announced May 4th. Offensive Player of the Year to be awarded to the offensive player deemed to have had the most exceptional performance this season, to be announced May 5th. And then the All XFL team, which is kind of like an NFL All Pro team, with players at each position representing their position. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes. And then the XFL Play of the Year, which is a fan vote. XFL fans will have the opportunity to participate in voting for the XFL Player of the Year, the most exciting, innovative, or shocking play that captured the spirit of the XFL. That'll all be announced on May 8th, especially with the All XFL team. So that's just something to look at next week. We will bring the award winners to you next week. So we just thought we'd get out Reggie Barlow's accolade today because it just came out. And John, speaking of a guy getting a chance in this league, how about Jack Cohn? What update do you have on him today?
Well, he has gotten invites from 2 teams in the NFL to go to their rookie training camps. A lot of the quarterbacks have had opportunities to play in the NFL previously, but Jack Cohn has not, so he's getting invited to these rookie training camps. He's been invited to the Jets training camp this weekend and the Seahawks training camp next weekend. So see if anything comes out of that. He probably won't be competing for a starting job, but that backup job could come in handy, as we've seen Geno Smith even. He was a backup to Russell Wilson. He's now a starter, so we'll see if Jack Cohn can get this. And it's a great opportunity for a player in the league of second chance and other opportunities, because he has gotten on an off-season roster for the Colts in the past, but nothing really came out of that, and that's why he's in the XFL.
Good luck to you, Jack Cohn. We wish you luck here. The XFL community wishes you luck, my man. In other news, I thought this was really interesting. I'd bring this up. How about this enhanced audio Skycast from this weekend? So if you weren't paying attention, the ESPN Plus, or if you don't have ESPN Plus, that's also a problem here. But if you didn't see, on ESPN Plus this weekend, for both division championship games, the North and the South, the ESPN Plus had an alternate broadcast where they broadcast the entire game from the Skycam angle, and the with no announcers, and all you could hear was the coordinators, coaches, and players and refs. John, what did you think about this? You saw a little bit of this. I made you watch a little bit before the show. What do you think of it?
I like it. I like the Skycam view. It's cool, kind of simulating the drone view that the USFL has, but it's more high tech here with the Skycam, obviously. Uh, I think it could be cool to see just the commentators like over it, maybe like a broadcast with and a broadcast without it. But I do understand why it's just the enhanced audio, because it makes you feel more immersed in the game, and the Skycam really gets you in that kind of Madden feel and gets you closer to the field than the other cameras. So I do like it, and then on top of getting closer to the field, like I said, you have that audio. It really makes you feel like you're in the game.
You like it? Me and my dad love it. He walked in while I was watching the Skycast for the Sea Dragons Defenders game, and he's the cameraman, and he's been thinking about like this idea because he's a big football fan. He's been thinking about this idea forever now, like pitching a Skycam, like a full Skycam broadcast for a game. The NFL did it once a couple years ago for a Titans Steelers Thursday night football game, but that was a one-time thing, and they just haven't even touched it since. But this was so cool, man. We really enjoyed this. This better be. I really do hope that this will be available on ESPN Plus for the championship game, because that's how I would watch the championship game if I could. ESPN, XFL higher ups, whoever, please let this come back. I would love to see this again. All right. Now after my little rant, let's get into a look ahead. A look ahead to the championship game. Felix, what do you got for us, man?
Yeah. So, looking at the schedule for the championship, we have obviously the Arlington Renegades versus the DC Defenders, and they're heading into a neutral site this time. So, obviously it shouldn't be too biased, but it will be taking place in the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, Texas. So maybe a little more Arlington fans there just because it's closer by proximity. But we'll see how many DC fans come out for the championship here, which is taking place on Saturday, May 13th. At 8/7 Central, and it will be shown on ABC as well as ESPN Deportes.
No word on the Skycam broadcast yet. I hope that comes through. Felix, there's been talk about moving the Super Bowl to Sunday or to Saturday night, or like making like Monday a holiday, like the next day.
Yeah.
I know the talk about the Saturday thing. We're basically going to get to see it with this XFL championship game. How do you feel
Indeed.
about it?
I like it, honestly. I've always been, at least when I was little, I was always confused on why Super Bowl was on a Sunday. I mean, obviously now I know it's kind of just a tradition thing. It's always been on Sunday, but logically it kind of makes more sense for it to be on a Saturday just because, you got people drinking a lot and partying late, and it doesn't make sense to go to work the next day after that. So I definitely think this is a good idea. We'll see how it works out. Hopefully a lot of fans show up and have a good time watching this game.
No legislation needed for making Monday a holiday, and then we could just move the game and update back the
Yeah,
XFL. XFL trying some new stuff. I can't wait
indeed.
to see what the broadcast figures will look like, the ratings. And
Indeed. Damn, I like it.
John, you got us covered on ticket prices, right? This is our ticket tycoon segment. What do you got, man? What are the tickets to this championship game looking like?
Yeah, so I forget how many weeks ago, but they started selling these tickets before the regular season ended, and they were started at a low of $25 a ticket. Now I think all of those are gone, and the only ticket prices low are gonna be $35. I mean, I don't think they're selling the whole stadium, so I think they're only selling the lower bowl, which the 100s. It's a great price if you want to get that in the 100s. The more, and that's going to be in like the corner of the stadium. You might not see much, but it's still going to be a good experience. If you want to get more to the middle, they will be more expensive, upwards of like $140. I mean, still pretty good price compared to the NFL, and it should be a good game if Arlington steps up like they did last week. So it'll be fun.
Yeah, I mean, $130 for a championship game ticket. Good seat too. I mean, I will take that any day.
Excellent. That's excellent.
Yeah, at the
NFL
50-yard
is like
line.
10 grand.
At which y'all in the 50?
Yeah,
That's crazy. Unbelievable.
Crazy.
139. So yeah, 140.
Hey, if you guys are in San Antonio, get those tickets for us, if anyone.
That's via
Get
Vivid
those tickets
Seats,
for
by the way.
someone.
Exactly. Get
Thank
those
you,
for sure.
John. Thank you. All right, so we're gonna do a quick little preview at the Vegas View. This is gonna be a lot more analytical Vegas View. We're gonna look at this, just kind of analyze the matchup more, but we're gonna give you the early lines, and we'll see how they shift going into next week. So these lines are via Caesars Sportsbook on Tuesday, May 3rd. Obviously, we have a lot of time till this game starts. So with injuries, updates, whatever, this line could easily move. Lines are subject to change. So the DC Defenders, they're favored by 6 in this game. Whenever they played the Renegades in that first matchup in Week 9 to clinch a playoff spot in overtime, which was just an unbelievable game. That was a 10.5 point spread. So that's already shrinked by 4.5 points, which is a lot. Over under sitting at 46.5. John, what do you think about when you first look at this matchup?
Uh, well, I think about the defenses. I really think it's gonna be a game won by one of these defenses because I mean the offenses have shown that they can be explosive. It's gonna be how can the defenses slow down so that the team's offense can get more chances at scoring. I really think it will come down to that, and it's probably gonna be one in the trenches, O line versus D line. Whereas both these teams do like to run quite a bit, obviously, because DC has their number one rusher in Abram Smith. But I mean, don't sleep on Devion Smith for the Renegades. He's been good throughout the season, and he might put some good yards up.
Yeah, man. What does Arlington need to do to pull off this upset specifically?
They gotta take away those crossing routes that Chris Blair has been known to run, and all of the receivers really. But in one game, I know Chris Blair took just a short slant for like 70, 80 yards to the house. Like that can't happen.
Right. So limit the big play.
Exactly.
Keep it a low score. I think that's Arlington's roots, and it'll be interesting to see if they can go to a shootout. Because for DC, I think the their key to this game is make it a shootout, man.
Yeah.
You know that you can overpower basically anybody in this league. I mean, Seattle was the only team that you could even get close to, probably like challenging you on offense. But Arlington, I mean, this last week was the first week they really like put a full game together offensively, and basically the entire season, their best game on offense the entire season. Can they replicate that? I don't know. It will be interesting to see. But challenge them, attack them early. Don't let them keep this game low scoring. But John, how much has Luis Perez affected this Renegades team mid-season?
Oh, a lot. I mean, if they don't have him, they are not in this situation, period. I mean, what other quarterback did they have? I think they signed someone named Kelly Bryant. I mean, we haven't heard his name much at all.
Right, ever since Perez got the
Yeah.
job, yeah.
But they cut Kyle Sloter. They just kind of moved on completely from the QB room they had at the start and just got Luis Perez and all these other guys, and it just seems to be a good switch as they've been improving slowly but surely ever since they got Perez.
Perez, the Spring King, you might call him. I've seen that name thrown around. For Jordan Tamu, he was also in the USFL last year, like Perez. Perez last year was the head of the 9-1 New Jersey Generals. They played the Philadelphia Stars last year in the USFL semifinal, and they were upset. Perez threw an interception with like 40 seconds left in that game. But now the roles are reversed. He's the one upsetting the favorite and going to the championship game. Well, for Jordan Tamu, he was also in the USFL last year. The Tampa Bay Bandits, missed the playoffs. He was impressive at times. John, how good has he been this year?
Oh, he's been great, and I think people really underplay how good he's really been. I mean, not to take any credit away from Abram Smith, but without Ta'amu, Abram Smith does not have the season he's had. And I mean, Ta'amu has not been putting up crazy numbers. He's kind of been consistent around the 250-yard mark, which is good, and it's been good enough to win them games. And I think he's that leader that the team gets behind whenever he goes out on the field.
How does Tamu limit turnovers? Because he had two last week, and I know it didn't affect him. But let's say Arlington's offense is humming a little bit more in this game. How does he limit that?
I don't So he threw them into traffic. I think they were a bit of bad decision making, but at the end of the day, they were balls that were caught off tips, and the second one was kind of lucky. What a spectacular catch by, I forget the defender's name, but great
Antoine
catch
Brooks.
by him. Yeah, great catch by him. I don't know that that's really going to be a talk in the locker room, especially because it didn't affect them really at all. I don't think the talk in the locker room is going to be how do we limit turnovers. It's just going to be how do we keep our foot on the gas pedal.
Perfect. I mean, great throws, just not the greatest decisions. But Jordan Thomas can bounce back. He's been in these places before.
Yeah.
All right, so that'll do it for our show this week. We thank you guys for listening and or watching. You can follow us at Team9Pod on Twitter. You can find us on YouTube at Team9Pod. Yeah, they have ads now on YouTube. Can you believe that? And on Spotify, just search Team9 and look under podcast, and we should be there. Felix, you have anything to say?
No, nothing. Thanks for listening, everyone. We hope you come back again, and if you made it all the way through, you're a goat for real. So thank you. We appreciate it a lot.
That's factual. How about you, John?
Yeah. If you're still with us after our 2-week little hiatus there, we appreciate you. Hopefully you stick around for the rest of this XFL season and keep with us throughout the USFL season.
Hey, listen, we're Team 9. We're back, baby, and we ain't leaving. We out.
Sir.
Peace.